After 30 days of silence, I discovered an incredible secret that changed everything for my wife. Mike, a mechanic in a faded Rust Belt town, felt the weight of silence pound in his chest like heavy metal on metal. Bills piled high on the counter, casting shadows over their worn kitchen table. Sarah, his wife and high school teacher, seemed to float through the house, like a ghost of the woman he once knew, her laughter muffled by the drone of unspoken words. Desperation clawed at him, so he made a radical choice: 30 days of silence. No distractions. Just the two of them, or so he thought. The first morning was sharp with realization. As he grabbed Sarah's coffee mug, hidden beneath a plump, floral curtain, he noticed her tired eyes searching for something within him. She had been giving so much, pouring herself into her classroom, leaving pieces of her dreams to gather dust. For the first time, in the hush of their home, Mike felt that old ache, the longing to protect not just their family but Sarah, too. Days passed in a blur of engine grease and muffled sounds. Trading quips with coworkers became silent gestures. But amidst the routine, he began to see. The young mother next door wrestled with her toddler in a backyard full of weeds, and the town's old veterans animatedly recalled their glory days at the diner. Yet it was Sarah's quiet resilience that struck him hardest. She graded papers at night, her worn fingers cradling a pencil as if it were a wand meant to open up her world. The silence forced Mike to dig deeper into their lives, and by week 3, he was breathlessly aware of every unspoken wish she held, the stories that lay dormant in her mind like forgotten treasures. His heart ached when he realized he had not seen the spark in her eyes for years. Could it be that he was the one who had strayed? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As their days of silence drew to a close, a conversation with a neighbor revealed Sarah's hidden dream writing. The words took root in Micah's mind. He decided to act. Under the cover of each night, he snuck out to collect old books from garage sales, reached out to local writing groups, and slipped discreet notes beneath her coffee mug, each remark sparking like dry leaves in the wind. His heart soared with hope. Could this little gesture kindle her passion? But as misunderstandings bubbled to the surface, uncertainty crept in. A miscommunication ignited Sarah's fears. She believed that Micah's silence had been a withdrawal, not a quiet act of love. Their confrontation shook them both to the core. With hearts aching, they found themselves staring into each other's eyes, too flooded with emotions to utter a word. And just as despair threatened to suck them deeper into darkness, a stranger knocked on their door with an unexpected manuscript, claiming it to hold the key to Sarah's dreams. The air thickened with questions. Could this encounter reignite her passion, or would it just amplify the rift left in silence? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a man with tousled hair and a frayed backpack slung over one shoulder. In his expression, there was a mix of excitement and nervousness that mirrored Mike's own racing heart. The man introduced himself as Alex, a local writer with stories that flitted around like butterflies, waiting to land. He held out a battered manuscript, almost reverent in his gesture. "This is for you," Alex said, his voice low but filled with an urgency that cut through the suffocating air. "It's a collection of stories, tales of passion and dreams. I believe your wife needs this." Mike glanced at Sarah, who stood frozen by his side, confusion flickering on her face. He could see the glimmer of something, the same spark he had longed to ignite within her. But it was overshadowed by the weight of their silence, a reminder of the misunderstanding that had nearly pushed them apart. Tentatively, Sarah took the manuscript. Her fingers brushed over the worn cover, and Mike watched as the weight in her shoulders seemed to lighten ever so slightly. The thought of her rediscovering that passion sent a surge of warmth through him. "Thank you," she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper, yet laced with gratitude. As she flipped through the pages, Mike fought the urge to speak. The silence in their home remained, but it felt different now, charged, almost electric. The moments stretched painfully long as she read snippets, her eyes darting across the paper. "Wait!" she exclaimed suddenly, wide-eyed. "I recognize this story." In an instant, the air shifted, sadness giving way to excitement. Sarah turned to Alex, her enthusiasm infectious. "This is my favorite from the writer's group. I used to share it in class." Mike couldn't suppress the small smile forming at the corners of his mouth. That connection had always been there, hiding beneath layers of routine and cluttered responsibilities. But how would they navigate this unexpected turn? The weight of past hurt still lingered, heavy like lead coating their hearts. Alex sensed the shifting dynamics between them and nodded knowingly. "Writing has a way of coaxing our truths out, revealing the places we've neglected. It can be scary to face those truths." He trailed off, glancing at Mike, as if he could sense the unspoken fears brewing within him. "Maybe we all need to find our voices again," Sarah mused, her eyes sparkling with a new light. The conversation opened a doorway, her words cascading into a stream of long-buried desires and aspirations. They were discussing ideas, letting thoughts tumble out, and Mike felt his heart swell. But just as they drifted into a discussion about literary themes, a knock echoed through the house, this time firmer than before. The thud felt like a drumbeat against their building hope. The atmosphere shifted again, tight and menacing. Mike exchanged a glance with Sarah, both feeling the quickening pulse of uncertainty. Could it be? With a mix of dread and curiosity, they moved toward the door. What other secrets lay beyond that threshold, waiting to dance violently with their fragile newfound connection? Standing on the edge of this looming mystery, Mike's heart raced. "Shall we find out?" he asked, gripping Sarah's hand tightly, ready to confront whatever awaited on the other side. Mike hesitated for a moment, his heart thundering in his chest as Sarah's fingers intertwined with his. They stepped closer to the door, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. He could feel the warmth of her hand, a reminder of the bond they had almost lost. Another knock, assertive and demanding. The sound echoed in the stillness, raising the hairs on the back of his neck. "Maybe we should just ignore it," Sarah suggested, her voice wavering slightly. "What if it's someone we don't want to see?" Mike could sense her apprehension, but curiosity gnawed at him. "What if it's something important?" he countered, glancing at Alex, who stood a few feet back, shifting from foot to foot in silent anticipation. With a deep breath, Mike steadied himself and turned the doorknob. The door creaked open to reveal a woman, her expression unreadable but firm. She was bundled in a thick coat, her dark hair framing her face in wild curls. "Are you Mike?" she asked urgently, ignoring the surprised looks from Sarah and Alex. "Yeah, that's me," Mike replied slowly. He glanced at Sarah, who whispered his name like a plea. "Who are you?" Well, I think you need to see this." She pulled out a small envelope from her coat pocket and held it out to him. Her hands trembled, betraying the nerves simmering beneath her composed exterior. "What is it?" he asked, glancing at the envelope and then back at her. It's about your wife," she stated, her eyes scanning Sarah's face. "Something you should know. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important." Confusion washed over Mike, followed by an undercurrent of dread. He turned to Sarah, whose face had gone pale. "What could this possibly be?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid of the answer. "Just open it," the woman replied, her voice almost pleading. With hesitation, Mike reached for the envelope. It felt heavy in his hand, burdened with secrets he wasn't sure he was ready to face. He tore it open and pulled out a folded piece of paper. The handwriting was familiar, a script that sent chills racing down his spine. "Is that?" Sarah reached for the paper, but Mike held it back, his eyes scanning the words. "Just let me read it," he said, his heart pounding louder than ever. As he read, confusion turned to disbelief, disbelief into anger. The words painted a picture of a past event long buried, a secret that had lingered like a dark shadow. Each line felt like a dagger, cutting deeper into the raw tenderness of the moment they had just begun to reclaim. "What is it?" Sarah demanded, urgency lacing her tone. Her eyes darted between the paper and his face, desperate for answers. Mike finally met her gaze, an unsettling knot forming in his throat. "It's about you and someone else," he stammered, barely able to get the words out. The air around them thickened, a whirlwind of emotion swirling. Alex stood by, seemingly forgotten, but he watched with concern etched across his features. "What does it say?" Sarah pressed, her impatience mingling with fright. "I don't know if I should tell you." Mike's voice trailed off, aware that dropping this bombshell could undo everything they had just barely begun to mend. "Please," she urged, her expression pleading. "We can't go forward if we don't face it." With all their hopes and fears hanging in the balance, Mike's chest tightened as he took a breath, ready to unveil the truth that could change everything between them. But before he could speak, the woman's phone buzzed relentlessly in her pocket, breaking the weight of the moment. With one last glance at Mike and Sarah, she stepped back, urgency spilling over her face. "You need to talk. Now. Trust me." As she rushed away into the darkening evening, Mike looked down at the letter, knowing they were standing on the precipice of something they could not escape. Unraveling this secret might open wounds too deep to heal. Sarah's voice trembled, full of uncertainty. He met her gaze, feeling the distance growing, their connection wavering. "Are you ready for this? Because once we start, what if it changes everything?" The question hung in the air, and they both knew it rang true. What lay ahead might shatter their fragile harmony once and for all. Mike's hand shook as he held the letter, the paper crinkling under the pressure of his grip. The weight of Sarah's gaze felt like a heavy blanket, smothering the space between them. He wanted to tell her everything, to spill the words that could either mend their fraying relationship or tear it apart completely. "Mike, please." Sarah's voice softened, a blend of hope and fear layering each syllable. "What does it say? You can't just leave me hanging like this." He cast her a glance, searching her eyes for some sign of what to do. But there was nothing but a reflection of the uncertainty he felt. The room felt smaller, the air more suffocating. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to speak. It says there's someone else. Someone from your past. A man." He gulped as he stepped back, watching the reality of his words crash onto Sarah's face, like a wave dragging sand from underfoot. "Who?" The question was almost a whisper, tinged with betrayal, hurt, and disbelief. "His name is—" "I don't want to know," she interrupted, abruptly pulling her hand away from his. Her cheeks flushed, and Mike felt the sting of distance grow between them. "Just stop." He dropped his eyes to the paper, afraid to look at her. "Sarah, this is important. We can't run away from it." "But why now?" Her voice cracked with emotion. "After everything we've been through, why would someone bring this up now?" "Because it's the truth. It's not about them, it's about us." His voice rose, coming out harsher than he intended. He took a step closer, hoping to bridge the widening gap. "We need to face this together." "Together?" The word hit him like a sharpened knife. "You don't understand. You don't know what this could do to us. What it might mean for our future." "I'm trying to understand," he shouted back, frustration boiling inside. "This affects everything we've built, everything we've fought for." As panic began to rise in her eyes, Mike saw Sarah wrestling with her emotions. She took a few steps back, feeling cornered, like a rabbit caught in the open. "You don't even know if it's true. Do you think I would walk away from this if it wasn't he?" The woman at the door, he faltered, hating that he had dragged her into this. "She wouldn't have come if it wasn't important." The silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. Mike could hardly breathe, the enormity of the moment pressing in on him. He felt as if he were hanging off a ledge, waiting for Sarah's next move. A deep ache settled in his chest. "I need you to trust me, Sarah. We both deserve honesty, no matter how painful it is." Tears pooled in her eyes, but she blinked them back, fighting against them like they were a tide threatening to pull her under. "Trust is built on truths, Mike. But what if this truth isn't even ours?" He opened his mouth to respond, but the bitter taste of confusion stung his tongue. Half of him wanted to yell, to shake her awake. But the other half, the gentler part, merely longed to hold her and let the night wash away the pain. Maybe she hesitated, glancing toward the door that the woman had slipped through moments before. "Maybe we should reach out to her, see what she knows. Find the truth together? Are you sure?" he asked slowly, hope flickering cautiously in his heart. "You really want to go down that road?" She nodded, a brave smile breaking through the tension, even as fear lingered in her gaze. "Yes. If this is what it takes to heal, then we have to face it head on." "I'll call her," Mike said, recognizing the resolve in Sarah's voice. It felt like a lifeline thrown in a storm. As he took out his phone, a sudden chill swept through the room. For a fleeting moment, they stood intertwined in a fragile moment of courage, uncertainty swirling like autumn leaves caught in the wind. But then another knock echoed through the house. He frowned. "Should I get that?" Mike, he turned slowly, dread creeping in again. "If it's her again, what if it's more than that?" Sarah whispered, a ghost of apprehension shadowing her words. They both felt it as a new wave of anxiety crashed over them, setting the stage for whatever would come next. "Together?" he asked, only half joking. "Always," she replied, though a hint of worry lingered in her eyes, suggesting storm still lay ahead. As he approached the door, a knot tightened in his stomach. With one last look at Sarah, he opened it, bracing for whatever secrets waited beyond. The door creaked open, and Mike felt the weight of the world shift in an instant. A gust of cool air slipped inside, carrying with it the scent of rain and uncertainty. Standing on the doorstep was a stranger, a middle-aged woman with sharp features and stormy gray eyes that scanned his face intently. She wore a raincoat, suggesting she had been standing there for a while, perhaps deliberating whether to knock or not. "Hi," she said, her voice even but laced with an underlying quiver. "I'm here to talk to you about Sarah." Mike's heart raced, an anxiety-fueled drumbeat echoing in his ears. He glanced back at Sarah, who had stepped forward, her expression a mix of shock and curiosity. She looked weathered, yet something about her demeanor spoke of bravery. Are you the woman who came earlier?" Mike stammered, trying to grasp the reality of the situation. "Yes," the woman replied, her gaze unwavering. "My name is Rachel. I know this is confusing, but we need to discuss the letter." "Letter?" Sarah echoed, her voice trembling at the sudden twist of events, like a ship caught in a sudden storm. "What do you know about it?" Rachel took a deep breath, fidgeting with the zipper of her coat as if she were trying to anchor herself against their questions. "I didn't choose this. I never wanted to bring this to your doorstep. But I couldn't ignore the truth any longer." A heavy silence enveloped the trio, thick with unspoken words and raw pain. Mike felt the walls closing in, time stretching, as he contemplated whether this moment was a blessing or a curse. "Please come in," Sarah urged, her tone softening. Mike watched as she turned back and gestured for the woman to step inside. Rachel hesitated before stepping over the threshold, her movements hesitant but determined. Once inside, she lingered in the entryway, her eyes darting over the familiar features of the home. I didn't know Sarah lived here for certain, but I had to take the chance. We have a lot to unpack. Then start unpacking, Mike said, irritation sparking behind his words. What do you know? Who is this person? Why now? Rachel took a deep breath, her expression somber. I knew Sarah a long time ago. We shared parts of our pasts that weren't easy to deal with. I don't understand, Sarah murmured, brow furrowing. What does that mean? It means that the man in that letter, he was part of a life I thought we'd left behind. But he is back, and the truth is, Rachel faltered, glancing over at Mike and then back to Sarah, the truth is, he wants something more than just old memories. A chill swept over the room. Mike felt a surge of anger and confusion swell within him. More? What more? A second chance? With you? He spat out, heart racing. Rachel shook her head. No, with Sarah. That's why I'm here. He has come back to unearth things best left buried, and I'm afraid it could hurt you both if you don't know what you're up against. Mike's stomach dropped. He glanced at Sarah, and their eyes locked, panic swelling and colliding with uncertainty. Is this true? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah didn't reply, her silence spoke volumes. It was as if the room turned to glass, every fragile moment suspended in time. Mike could see the gears turning in her mind, the weight of choices pressing heavily on her shoulders. In Rachel's eyes, there was a mix of guilt and longing. You have to understand, I'm not here to hurt anyone, she rushed to say. I'm here to help. Help? The word felt foreign when laced with all this history. Mike felt torn between anger and the need for the truth. He wanted to believe Rachel, yet doubt lingered like smoke in the air. Why now? Sarah finally asked, her voice steadier despite the turmoil inside her. There are things you need to know, secrets that could shatter everything. Rachel paused for a moment, letting her words settle into the air between them. And I think we need to face them together. As the weight of her admission hung between them, Mike realized their lives were about to spiral into chaos once again. This wasn't just another confrontation. They were on the brink of revelation, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to dive deeper into this tangled web. What did Rachel truly know? And more importantly, how far would they all have to go to unravel the truth? His heart raced as he looked at Sarah, fear and resolve etched on her face. Are you prepared for this? He asked, realizing that they both had to answer that question. The air crackled with tension, and the world outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the fragile knot of their situation hanging heavily before them. Rachel's eyes darted between Mike and Sarah, searching for a sign of willingness or dread. I know this is overwhelming, but you can't ignore what is coming. The man from the letter, he has a way of weaving back into lives, and if you don't want that to happen, you need to act fast. Mike could feel the room closing in, the atmosphere thickening with unwelcome revelations. What can we do? He asked, the weight of her words sinking in deeper. He turned to Sarah, pursuing a flicker of understanding in her gaze. What does this mean for us? Sarah took a step back, her hand covering her mouth, as if to stifle the impending wave of emotion. I don't know, Mike. If he is back, her voice trembled, and the fear coiled tightly in her stomach. What if he wants me? I won't let that happen, Mike interrupted, his own feelings igniting with fierce protectiveness. You're not going to get pulled into whatever drama he has planned. Listen to me, Rachel interjected, her voice steely but compassionate. This isn't just about feelings. It's about history secrets that have festered for too long. You both deserve to know everything, even if it hurts. Silence weighed heavily in the air, broken only by the distant sound of raindrops hitting the window. Mike felt the tension in his chest tighten, a mix of desperation and an essential need to protect what they had built together. "What are these secrets?" Sarah finally asked, longing overshadowing her fear. "We can't fight what we don't understand." Rachel took a deep breath and leaned into the shadows cast by the dim light in the room. "When I first met your father, Sarah, I was dangerously caught up in something I thought I could manage. But it spiraled out of control, and then he disappeared from my life just as quickly as he appeared." Her voice trembled with vulnerability. "But he never truly disappeared, did he? He has been lingering, and he'll be at your doorstep soon if you're not careful. Why would he want to come back now?" Mike pressed, frustration boiling beneath the surface. "What is his agenda?" Rachel hesitated, her hands fidgeting again with the zipper of her coat. "He has regrets. He wants to fix things, to reconnect. But I don't think he sees the damage he has left in his wake both for me and for you, Sarah." A chill swept through Mike. "Fix? By coming back into the picture after all this time?" He glanced at Sarah, who looked torn, caught between past feelings and present realities. "No one can just walk back in like they own the place." "I know that," Rachel insisted, her intensity rising. "But he feels entitled to your life, especially if he believes time can erase his mistakes." Rachel's words hovered in the air, echoing through their minds. Mike felt the reality settle in. This man wasn't he just a ghost of the past. He was a looming threat. The knot in Mike's stomach twisted tighter. What if he tries to take Sarah out of our lives, to manipulate her? Sarah's tears began to form, a reminder of the stakes they were faced with. He could, but I won't let that happen. I love you, Mike." "I love you too," he replied, his voice steady, yet he could feel the tremors beneath. "But this is bigger than us. We need to prepare. We need a strategy." Rachel nodded, sensing the urgency. "We need to gather all the information we can. I can help you both together. We can ensure he doesn't cause more harm." With a newfound determination, Mike took a steadying breath, looking at Sarah with a fierce resolve. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." But as they prepared to wade into these murky waters, doubt gnawed at the edges of their bravery. Would they be able to stand tall against the shadows of the past? As Rachel began to outline their next steps, anxiety danced in the air, and Mike couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the edge of a precipice. Would their love survive the storm about to break? The rain pattered steadily against the window. Mike leaned forward, desperation tinging his voice. "We need to be prepared for anything. He could come at any time, and we don't know what he is capable of." Sarah nodded, yet her brow furrowed with worry. What if he approaches me first? What if I'm not strong enough to resist?" Rachel stepped closer, her eyes softening with understanding. "You're stronger than you think, Sarah. But we can't just wait. This isn't going to resolve itself. We need to dig into the past. Find out what he wants, and how he intends to do it." Mike stood up abruptly, frustration bubbling over. "But how? What exactly are we looking for? We have no idea what his intentions are." Rachel inhaled deeply, her eyes narrowing as she gathered her thoughts. "Look into his past. His dealings, the people he was with. He didn't just vanish. He had links, connections. They may still be out there." "I think I know where to start," Sarah said quietly, her voice lacking its usual resolve. "My mother has some old boxes, mementos from before Dad left. I think she kept some letters, maybe even more information. I can go through them." Mike felt a tightness in his chest. "Are you sure you want to dive into this? It could stir up a lot of pain." "I have to know," her voice cracked, determination creeping back in. "I can't just allow him to come back in without knowing what he wants." He reached for her hand. "Then I'm coming with you. We'll do this together." Rachel smiled faintly, sensing the bond they were solidifying. "If he approaches either of you before we get any answers, remember your strength. Trust in each other. That's your first line of defense." That evening, they sat around Sarah's dining table, boxes strewn about. Dust danced in the air, still settling from the years gone by. Sarah opened the first box and pulled out an old, faded journal. She flipped through the pages, scanning the writing. "Look, this is from the summer before he left," she said, her finger brushing over the words. "It talks about plans he had, his dreams, nothing that hints at everything that happened next." Mike hung over her shoulder, wrapping an arm around her. "We'll find something. Just take your time." As they continued rummaging through the boxes, Rachel stood off to the side, watching the couple. A bittersweet smile crossed her lips. She remembered those early days of excitement, what it was like when passion took the lead, and reality didn't stand in the way. Somewhere between youthful dreams and adult dilemmas lay the truth. Suddenly, Sarah gasped, the sound pulling both Mike and Rachel into focus. "Look at this," she explained, holding up an envelope. "It's addressed to me." Tension climbed the air as she opened the envelope, revealing a letter written in familiar handwriting. Mike squeezed her shoulder, his heart racing. Rachel leaned closer, her eyes wide with anticipation. As Sarah read aloud, her voice trembled. "My dear Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I've finally reached out to you. I want you to know that I never stopped thinking about you." The room fell silent. The words washed over them like a powerful wave, clawing at hidden emotions. Mike's stomach churned. This wasn't the time for visions of the past. "What else does it say?" he urged, a sense of dread creeping in, but Sarah's eyes widened, her breath hitching. "He's in trouble. He needs my help. Says he is being hunted by people who want to hurt him, and he thinks I'm the only one who can save him." Like a lightning strike, the gravity of the situation hit. What had they stumbled into? Suddenly, the stakes were higher than they had imagined. In that moment, their world twisted again. Every choice mattered. The shadows of the past seemed darker now, and the threat of danger loomed closer. "Are you going to respond?" Rachel asked cautiously, her instincts on high alert. Sarah hesitated, the weight of the decision settling in. In her heart, she knew this was a turning point. "I don't know, but I can't ignore this." Mike's voice cut through the tension. "Please, Sarah, think about this carefully. We don't know what he is really after." But Sarah's eyes held a spark of rebellion. "If there's a chance he needs me, I can't turn my back on that." As they stood at this new crossroads of fear and uncertainty, Mike felt the ground shift beneath him. Would they truly step further into this tangled web of old wounds, or could they choose to protect their future instead? The rain beat down harder outside, an echo of the turmoil brewing within. What path would they walk now? And could their love endure the test that awaited just around the corner? The rain continued to hammer against the roof, as if mirroring the storm within Sarah's heart. She felt torn, caught between years of unanswered questions and a desperate need to protect the life she had built with Mike. "Okay," she said, her voice shaking but resolute. "I need to know what he means. I have to respond." She gathered a handful of papers from the table, her mind racing. What if this is really dangerous? What if he is involved with people who could hurt me, hurt us? Mike's gaze darkened, his protective instincts flaring. "You can't just rush into this. We have no idea what he has gotten himself mixed up in." "But he is my father," Sarah replied, her eyes flashing with a mix of determination and fear. "I have to try. If there is any chance he is genuinely in trouble," Rachel spoke up, her tone serious. "This isn't just about you, Sarah. It could put us all at risk. We need a plan before you reach out." The sense of urgency in her voice added weight to the air thickening with dread. "Maybe we should meet him, face to face," Sarah suggested. "If he can explain everything, if I can at least see he is okay." "Meet him?" Mike echoed, incredulous. "What if it's a trap? What if someone is waiting for us?" "Then we prepare," Sarah answered, a fire igniting in her belly. I can't let fear dictate my decisions any longer. I deserve answers. The silence that followed was heavy. Mike looked at Rachel, thinking about what they were getting into. He wanted to shield Sarah from everything to protect her from the unknown that loomed ahead. But he also understood that the search for truth was like a dark, murky river, and sometimes you had to jump in if you wanted to reach the other side. Okay, he finally relented, his voice low and steady. But we do this carefully. We gather everything we can find first, want to know what we're dealing with before we decide to respond. As night fell, a cascade of feelings surrounded them, a cocktail of anxiety and determination. They spent the hours digging deeper into the memories and remnants of Sarah's past. Each letter unearthed, each trinket unveiled seemed to pulse with hidden stories. In one box, Rachel discovered more than just letters. There were old photographs, snapshots of Sarah's childhood. She set them aside, as Mike rifled through handwritten notes. This is crazy. Look at the people he mentioned. They could have connections we don't even know about. Each revelation brought them closer to understanding, yet further engulfed in a whirlpool of uncertainty. Hours later, as the exhaustion began to settle in, Sarah felt a tug at her heart. She held a small locket in her palm, one she recognized from early childhood, and the memories flooded back. Laughter, warmth, and the distant rumble of a man's voice that felt both familiar and foreign. A knock on the door interrupted her moment, a sound jarring enough to send a shiver down her spine. Mike's eyes met hers, concern etched across his features. Who could that be? It's late. Rachel moved to the door cautiously, looking through the peephole. It's oh my God, she gasped. Who? Mike and Sarah both exclaimed in unison. Rachel stepped back, her face draining of color. It's someone I never expected to see. Sarah could feel the ground beneath her trembling, a mixture of hope and dread swirling together as panic whispered through the stillness, wondering if the very figure they were searching for had just crossed the threshold into their lives once more. Could this visitor be the key to unlocking secrets they were not ready to hear? Or would it shatter their fragile resolve into pieces they might never be able to put back together? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a shadowy figure standing on the threshold. Sarah's heart raced, a chorus of emotions twisting within her. Was this it? Was this the moment she had both yearned for and dreaded? Dad? Her voice barely rose above a whisper, quaking with disbelief. The man on the doorstep looked different than she remembered, grayer, more worn, but the familiar twinkle in his eye was unmistakable. Sarah, he said, his voice rough, like gravel, yet it was laced with a warmth that reached out to her, sending both comfort and apprehension coursing through her veins. Mike instinctively stepped in front of Sarah, his muscles tensed. Who are you? He demanded, a low growl edging his words. He was ready to protect Sarah at all costs. Mike, stop, Sarah said, placing a hand on his arm. She stepped forward, her heart pounding. It's okay. He is my father. After all these years, you just show up? Mike shot back, unyielding and fierce. You don't get to waltz back into her life without an explanation. Sarah felt pulled between the two men, emotions colliding. She took a deep breath, casting a glance back at Rachel, who stood frozen, eyes wide with shock. Can we just talk? She asked, her voice steadier now. Please? Her father nodded slowly, stepping inside, as if he were crossing a threshold not just into their home, but into her life again after so long. The tension hung thick in the air, a tempest of unspoken words. Once inside, he rubbed his hands together, glancing around. It's been a long time. He hesitated, looking between them. I know this must feel strange for you. Strange doesn't even begin to cover it, Mike retorted. You owe us an explanation. Why now? Because I am in danger, he replied, his voice lowering as shadows crept across his face. I've made mistakes, And there are people who want to. Sarah's heart pounded louder. What kind of danger? What have you gotten yourself mixed up in? His face contorted with emotion, a mixture of concern and regret. I can't explain everything here, but I need your help, Sarah. There are things you don't understand, things that could put you all at risk. Rachel moved closer, her brow furrowed in thought. If you really are in danger, you need to tell us everything. No more secrets, she urged. Her father closed his eyes for a moment, steadying himself. You deserve to know the truth about why I left, and about the people who were after me and you. Sarah could feel the heavy weight of his words sinking in. The rain outside picked up again, resonating with her unease. Every rational part of her screamed to walk away, to shut the door and protect her new life. But the pull of her father's plight was undeniable. She had spent too long wondering about him, yearning for closure and an understanding of her roots. Then tell me, she urged, tell me everything. As he began to speak, the words dripped with painful honesty, revealing the secrets he had kept hidden for years. Each revelation tightened a knot in her stomach. She felt hope and dread battling within her, creating a storm far worse than the one raging outside. And just as the weight of his confession settled, a loud crash echoed from outside, the sound piercing through their fragile moment. What was that? Mike asked, tensing again, eyes darting toward the window. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She exchanged a glance with her father, realizing then that the peril might already be closer than they had imagined. Maybe it's just the storm, Rachel said, but uncertainty threaded her voice. Or maybe it's more than that, her father whispered, his eyes suddenly steely with urgency. We may not be safe here anymore. We need to leave now. The terror in Sarah's heart surged, as the storm outside seemed to mimic the one within. What had they just faced, and what was waiting for them on the other side of this night? The night unleashed itself in torrents, rain pounding against the roof as they huddled together, fear coursing through their veins. Sarah felt the weight of her father's presence fill the room with memories she had long buried. Each word he spoke tugged at pieces of her life she had almost forgotten, yet now the urgency of his situation brought everything crashing back. Leave? Where? Mike interjected, his protective instincts kicking hard. We can't just rush out. We need to know what we're dealing with first. Mike, time isn't on our side, Sarah's father urged, his expression grim. They're getting closer. They? Who's they? Mike shot back, disbelief mixing with unfolding panic. What exactly has happened? Listen to me, he said, the urgency in his voice rising. A few years ago, I found myself tangled in something I couldn't get out of. People who made promises they didn't keep then turned against me when I tried to walk away. Now they're demanding something I can't give. What do they want? Rachel pressed, her voice steady as she took notes. He was involved in a network, one that operates in shadows, Sarah's father explained, his voice thick with remorse. When I realized the danger, I attempted to break free, but they don't just let you leave. You will find out everything in the end. And now they know I reached out. The words reverberated through the air, heavy with the implications wrapped around them. Mike's jaw tightened, glancing between Sarah and her father. And you think they're coming for her? I think they'll come for anyone connected to me. That's why I hesitated for so long, he admitted, glancing at Sarah with an intensity that made her heart ache. I didn't want to drag you into this mess, but it's already too late. But it's also a chance for us, Rachel interjected, gathering her thoughts. If we work together, we can find a way to protect each other. We can't let the past dictate our future. Together, Sarah echoed softly, the word carrying a weight that both excited and terrified her. She had missed out on so much. Now, here was an opportunity to rewrite her story, not just with Mike, but restoring the connection with her father. Agreeing is the first step, Mike said, cautiously rising to the challenge. We can fight. The resolve in his eyes flickered, a fierce light of determination that they all needed. Suddenly, another loud crash broke their focus. Mike moved to the window, peering through the curtains. "We have to act. They could already be here," he warned. "I have an idea," Rachel said, her mind racing. "If we assess our surroundings, there are emergency exits and places nearby where you can hide. If they come, we'll be ready. Sarah, show your father that you can handle this." "Handle this?" Sarah felt the heaviness in her chest start to lift. She turned her gaze toward her father. "We're family, right? That's what family does. We stand together." His face softened. "I never wanted to put you in danger," he murmured, regret tugging at his heartstrings. "But I can see you've grown, Sarah. Strength runs through your veins, just like your mother's." With no time to waste, they sprang into action, gathering vital belongings, each item carefully selected for both speed and meaning. Sarah locked eyes with Mike, his fierce determination igniting her spirit. He grabbed her hand in reassurance, grounding them both in the chaos. As they moved toward the door, another loud knock resounded, powerful and intentional. "It's now or never," Mike urged, his eyes set on the door. He tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, and she felt the rush of adrenaline as her heart raced. "On three." "Ready?" Rachel whispered, fear lacing her voice. They all nodded, drawing strength from each other. 1, 2, 3. Mike threw open the door, revealing nothing but darkness. But as they stepped outside, shadows danced, and figures emerged from behind the trees lining the property. A sense of dread lingered as Sarah recognized the faces, the harsh glint of malicious intent glimmering in their eyes. "Don't move," one of them barked, raising a hand to halt them. The air thickened, and tension crackled as Mike maneuvered Sarah behind him, instinctively acting as her protector. "Back off," Mike growled, positioning himself to confront the danger headlong. "This is a family matter," her father said, stepping forward despite the fists clenching tightly at their sides. "What you want, it ends now." In that singular moment, Sarah felt the power of unity wash over them. In the face of lurking danger, they wouldn't retreat. They would fight together. "Listen to me," Rachel said, her chin raised. "You don't have to do this. We're not alone. We have each other." The darkness might have surrounded them, but it had ignited a fire within. Sarah stood next to Mike, and together, they faced the storm of reckoning that would ultimately shape their lives moving forward. As the rain poured down, the promise of tomorrow flickered ahead, and Sarah squeezed Micah's hand, her heart full of hope. They would reclaim their narrative, one moment at a time. They were not just fighting against a shadow. They were fighting for love, for family, and for the future they hadn't realized they could still obtain. From that darkness, a transforming light awaited. Now, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the message. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.